Hey, welcome back to our channel, Courageous Conviction. I want to talk a little bit today about, I'm in Costa Rica. I flew in late last night or early this morning. I landed here. I was really disturbed. I got on a flight in Las Vegas, and that flight in Vegas took me to Fort Lauderdale. First of all, had three flights. First flight was okay, which is a short hop. Las Vegas, Fort Lauderdale. The majority of the people on that plane were Latinos. Some were foreigners from other countries, and then a bunch of the other mix. What I'd say would be blacks, and then there were just a handful of whites in the plane. I really felt awkward. I felt like I was flying in a foreign country to a destination of a foreign country. Right? I did not feel like I was flying in America. It didn't look like America at all. When I landed in Fort Lauderdale, it wasn't America. Even announcements for the flights were done in Spanish. Some only in Spanish, not with an English backup. Some were done in Spanish first, then with an English backup. And I saw that in Miami years ago. But it's spreading now, and it's gotten a lot worse. That bothers me. You say, what's that bother you? It's something small. No, it's not small at all. The language of the restoration is English, and we need to preserve that. In fact, there were some general authorities that came down to Ecuador when I was in a stake there, and they had come down and spoke at a state conference, and they had said, look, we need to encourage everybody to start learning English and learning English so you can study the Book of Mormon in English. And there's a lot of other books that would open up to these people in English, and that's the problem too. A lot of these people coming, they might be good people, but they don't have access to these books or these writings because they don't speak the language. It's a barrier for them, and that's going to be something in and of itself. The same with the Constitution. Now, these people yesterday, I was sitting next to a guy, and I saw him on the phone talking to a buddy of his. He looked military, his buddy looked military, and I was thinking about something strange. He's probably about 22, 23 years old, but he was Venezuelan. And well, everything I could put together in this, he was Venezuelan, because I just share something with you. I was married to a Colombian for a number of years, and I want to go do another video on some of the Latin traits that are going to be a difference in America, and it's going to cause our culture to collapse. And it's something we got to be careful of. That's why immigration should be slower, and there should be this melting process, right, where people kind of melt in and they adapt to culture instead of coming in and changing culture. These people in plane were changes of culture. They weren't people who are coming here to melt in, to support. This kid was sitting on. One guy had flown with me on the first flight. And I looked at him, I thought, well, this guy looks Venezuelan. And I had a lot of Venezuelan friends. Remember, I lived right there, okay? And where we were was an invasion that came also from that same country. And it caused the crime to escalate to the point where Ecuador actually restored their gun rights about 9 months ago to the people. A socialist country took their gun rights from them already, gave them back to them, at least temporarily, right? Because they can't control the crime. It's gotten out of hand. And that's why now Ecuador is a sanctuary country where they can come to the U.S. and they can seek asylum. I'm not saying for a country, but an asylum, approved for asylum country, if you will. I don't know what words I'm trying to get out here. I'm just trying to get to this point. What I saw yesterday really frustrated me. And I know I got to be loving, and I'm trying to be loving, but I just did a video too on what a peacemaker is, and one who builds the walls up around to protect those from within. And you can allow true intentions to come within you and be a part of that if they want to support that, right? And that's what our scriptures and doctrine is all about. But this is what I saw. And I'm going to put some pictures in here, and I'm going to put a few videos. So the Venezuelan guy, I believe is Venezuelan. Look, I'm 95% sure. I've lived in these countries for 20 years of my life. The last 18 years, I should say, out of the last 20 years, 18 years consecutive, I was down in Central and South America. Very seldom went home. For 10 years, I never went back to the States. I just stayed in Latin America. I was down here. I was in the jungle. I was doing things. I brought my kids down because we were studying Book of Mormon, archaeological sites, and so forth, and looking for those evidences that Father would have left so I could concrete the testimonies of my kids. They gained their testimony spiritually. Now I want to solidify those testimonies so that there's no wavering. And that's another thing I'm doing here in Costa Rica right now is I'm going to start doing some filming for the Book of Mormon tours we want to start offering down here. Different than what you're going to find in Mexico or what you find maybe in Peru, right? Now, this guy was sitting. It was interesting because I saw the guy that flew with me the first flight sit down. Then I saw another Latino who didn't speak any English sit down next to him. Then I saw this Venezuelan guy come and sit in the aisle. I was in the aisle. He was across from me, so I'm right there. I can really see. all the tattoos and everything, his accent. See what happens when they come to the States, and if they're in the States long enough to obtain a citizenship, right, a passport, they begin to lose their accent. My ex-wife was Colombian, and she had a strong Medellin accent, and she prided herself in that accent. And we even lived down here, and she only visited the States, and she still lost her accent from being with me and being around me and speaking English. She lost her accent, and she was always bothered by that. So if these people still only speak their Spanish and they have their strong accents, it goes to tell you that they have not been in the States for a long period of time. Or if they have been in the States, they are in with nothing but Latinos and people like them that keep their accent. So they bring their culture with them and they're staying in their culture in America, right? Either one of those 2 points are not good for America. Not good for our freedom, for our lands, etc. Because they don't understand the Constitution, they don't respect it, and they don't care about it. And therefore, this is what I'm going to tell you. This is what I feel is going to happen now. And I feel this is part of this whole shadow campaign that we're wondering how Donald Trump is not going to win this election. But I don't think he's going to win this election. And I'm convinced even more yesterday. I hope I'm wrong in this. But they all whipped out American passports. They couldn't speak English. I was flying Spirit Airlines. I will never fly Spirit Airlines again, so long as I can avoid that. And they're helping them. They're bringing these people along. Remember before they had lines at the airports where it said undocumented and people were filming that? Ooh, that got out there. Well, they're not undocumented anymore. No, they got documentation now. They're just giving them passports. They're giving them citizenship. And it's funny because all of a sudden you're seeing now come out of the White House how they're given all these work permits and they're given these residencies. They're not residencies they're giving them. I don't have the tangible in front of me. I didn't hear him say that, but when he pulled out his brand new American passport, I mean, it looked brand new. And I'm pretty good at judge of character when it comes to these people because, I know Latinos in America, and they've been here for 20 years, and they speak very differently. Their conduct's very differently. Their demeanor is very different than it is if they're still in their culture, right? And I don't know how to explain that to you. It just comes from experience and seasoning, and that's something that not many are going to be able to see. And I can see that. I'm telling you, when I got to the airport in Costa Rica, we went to the foreigner line, and in that foreigner line, I was behind. I would say there were 200 people in front of us, and out of those 200 people, maybe 20 were white or even English-speaking people, right? Or truly from America. There were some Europeans there and maybe some from other countries, but mostly it looked like kind of a couple from Europe. I saw a couple passports, and the others were Americans. Got to talk to them. The rest of the people in line were all Latins. All Latins. And there was a group of high school kids. I would say maybe 50 or 60 of them, high school kids. And they're coming here to celebrate San Juan. San Juan is a cultural celebration in Latin America. And they dance and so forth like that. And so even my wife does the dance of San Juan. And they were a group that had all their shirts on. Every one of those kids had passports. And they were all standing there, not all, I shouldn't say, but there were quite a few. And even, there were quite a few looking at their passports and thinking, oh, I like my photo. And look at my photo here. And they were opening up and looking at it as it was something novel to them. I'm afraid to tell you this, but I really think that this administration, the Biden administration right now, are just handing out passports to all these illegals coming across the border. I don't have proof of that. I don't have that in my hands. But I'm telling you, I've traveled so much, I've never seen this in my life. When you go through the foreigner line, it's foreigners. These were other Latins with American passports. And when I'd been with other Latins, those lines, they had their own passports. Their passports from their countries. They were all supporting American passports. Almost every single one of them. And that's serious. On that plane, they couldn't speak English. The flight attendant on Spirit could speak a little bit of Spanish. She had when she would talk to them, they couldn't respond to her. So she had to try to get one into Spanish. With a lot all around me, she couldn't even communicate with the people. So these aren't people that have been here for any length of time at all. And they have American passports. So why don't you tell me how they got those American passports if this administration is not giving them to them? Now that would be the shadow campaign because they all can vote. And that is how we lose our freedoms in our election coming November and going forward. Because these kids, these high school kids, they'll come to America too. And that's the next generation. And then their generation and so forth. And I don't know if there's going to be a America to even save in 3 or 4 generations. I worry about that for my children. Now, I'm not trying to be discriminatory. I'm just trying to tell you the facts. You can take that how you like it. And, so many members go, oh, you're just a horrible person. You're discriminating. Man, my wife is Latin. Two of my children are Latin. Give me a break, please. I'm telling you the truth. And if you can't accept this truth, then I'm sorry. You might want to take it to the Lord and ask Him if what I'm telling you is true or not. That's all I'm trying to say to you. Take it to the Lord and do your own homework. I'm going to keep researching this, but do your homework, because I think that we're going to be a big surprise in November. Now, I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm 100% wrong. I hope we can have a conservative president again to try to bring us back in balance. But I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think that's ever going to happen until the Lord comes. And that's unfortunate. So where do we find peace? Well, fortify your homes. Fortify our borders and fortify our homes. This book tells us what to do and how to do it. If we don't want to do that, well, then that's on us. If we want to take the easy way out and say, well, it's easy for me to be a peacemaker. Well, General Roanoke was a peacemaker, and he was an action man. Peacemaking is being an action person. I just wanted to share with you what I saw yesterday. It really troubled me. And when I got to Fort Lauderdale, I felt like I was in Latin America. I felt like I was already in Costa Rica. In fact, when I got to Costa Rica, it was interesting. As I walked out of the plane, the people working at the airport in Costa Rica, they were talking to the American pilots, and they were speaking English. So they spoke better English than the people with American passports, and they didn't have American passports. Their ticos from here. Point being, we need to wake up. We really need to wake up. We really need to stop being such a teddy bear Jesus attitude and say, look, we can love, but we also have to love our families first. You remember, it's this. Remember the planes when you're taking off? I heard it so many times yesterday. If the mask drops, you put your own mask on first, and then you help the others, right? Your children and the others, the ones who are less capable. So you don't fortify your home and your spirit first. You don't bring peace first to you. You don't do something about it first. Your children, and the others will never have that opportunity, because there won't be America to give to our children and our posterity, from what I saw yesterday. And that really bothers me. How we deal with that, that's a tough one. We're really going to have to go to the Spirit on that one. But I recommend that you do. Hey, if you like this kind of content, because this is real content, I'm not fluffing things up. I'm not a pulpit. I'm telling you the facts and what it really is. I'm going to continue to investigate this. And we're going to continue, so stay with us. Like, subscribe. I'm going to go down and we're going to do some of those interviews. I'm going to try to show you what illegal mass immigration does to countries. Costa Rica is a prime example of it. Everybody thinks Costa Rica is beautiful. You don't see the other side of it. I lived there for 12 years. In my position as a CEO, I was fortunate enough to be able to deal a lot with the government, the Costa Rican government, and in the politics of it, all the way up to the top. And I saw how they work, and they told me how they work. They were very blunt about it. I went fishing, marlin fishing with these guys, and they got there, they have a few drinks, and they just open up and start talking. I learned a lot. I want to share it with you. So like, subscribe, Courageous Conviction. We'll see you in the next video.